The other two things that are brought up in the bulletin are the 72-hour cancellation notice. And this is brand new. There used to be a 3-day right of rescission that may or may not apply anymore. There was a case in 2006 that called that into question. And for a lot of new construction and like a tear-off and re-roof, you don't need to provide the 3-day right of rescission. That 3-day right of rescission was from the time of signing the contract. This 72-hour notice of cancellation, which needs to be provided at the time of signing the contract, runs from the time of insurer denial of the claim. It's codified in Minnesota Statutes 326B.811. It applies only to residential roofing contracts that are insurance paid and that you are required to provide them a notice before contracting with them that they have this 72-hour cancellation right. The 72-hour runs from time of insurer denial, and there's an open question of whether your contract is valid if you fail to provide the 72-hour notice. Now remember, it applies to residential roofing insurance paid contracts. Failure to provide, however, will be a license violation. And it went into effect back in August 1 of this year. And the takeaway on it are, provide notice to your potential customer before you enter a contract with them. So you got to give them a notice that they're going to get a notice. It's kind of like the Army. You tell them what you're going to do before you tell them what they're going to, you tell them what you're going to do, and then you tell them, and then you tell them afterwards what you told them. You got to reference the notice in your contracts. You don't have to. That's my recommendation, and the reason is because they'll say they didn't get it. Well, you have you'll give it to them. You have the contract that says they got it, and so what are they going to say? Well, they didn't read that part of the contract. Judges don't care much for that kind of a defense. And don't perform the work until the claim is approved. The problem with this statute, and I don't have it in the slides here, but the problem is a partial approval a denial? Or is it partial approval? Is the glass half empty or half full? Because lots of times you get a partial. Now, is that a claim denial? Or is the law really mean a straight outright claim denial? We're not providing you insured any kind of coverage. Or we're not going to cover the siding, but we're covering the roofing because the statute applies only to roofing. Is that okay? We don't know. None of these questions were answered by the law. The bulletin also mentions the law that went into effect this year on deductible rebates. On residential roofing contracts, insurance-paid residential roofing contracts, you can't rebate deductibles. Under statute, it's insurance fraud. It's been codified in Minnesota Statutes 325E.66. Applies only to residential roofing contracts that are insurance-paid, and it says you cannot rebate deductibles. If you do, the insurance company or your customer, the insured, can sue. Now, I can understand why the insurance company is suing you. Why? Because the argument is, well, you rebated a deductible, and they paid, an RCV, replacement cost value, on this. They were only supposed to pay for what it cost to replace it. They've overpaid because you've rebated money back to your customer. And that's the argument. Therefore, it's insurance fraud. You engaged in insurance fraud. So I can understand them suing you for that deductible back. But why would the insured sue you? Well, I can envision a scenario where the insurance company finds out that the insured cooperated with you in rebating a deductible because they got a check. That's the evidence. They got a check. And the insurance company comes back and denies the claim after the fact and says, you engage in fraudulent practice. And that's denied under the policy. So therefore, we're taking it back. And not only are we going to sue you, customer, for engaging in insurance fraud, but we're going to sue the contractor that you paid as well on a subrogation type of claim. So that's how it's going to happen, because then your customer is going to say, I didn't do anything wrong. They told me to do it. They told me to take the check. They my contractor. And so they'll sue you as well on an indemnification or a contribution type of claim, and that's how you'll get dragged in through the insured. So you don't want to get in that situation. It also will be a license violation. $10,000 per violation, that's the monetary penalty, but they also have powers of suspension or revocation if it's serious enough. That went in effect back in August as well. So this is current law. The takeaway on the no deductible rebates, don't do it. It's your money anyway. Why do you want to give your money away? The answer always is, well, because the guy behind me, he's giving his money away. Well, just everybody stop doing it. Don't give your money away. If you want to give money away, I'll take it. After the seminar here today, after this presentation, give it to me. I'm happy to take it. But, you know, don't do it. Keep your money. Signer lead credits are questionable. And I've seen from the Department of Labor and Industry questions relating to that in enforcement actions. Questions where they ask, well, you gave a credit to this customer and your sales rep said that it was in lieu of a rebate of a deductible. Why did you do that? I mean, I've seen them in the letters from the department. If you link a signer lead credit at all or any way to a deductible, you're rebating the deductible. And so the question is a signer lead credit okay? The argument for it is, yeah, it's for advertising. You don't do it as a credit, you do it as an agreement. It's a separate agreement, it's advertising. If your customer is going to give you some testimonial, if your customer is going to give you a sign to, you know, credit put on the lot for a period of time, if they're going to allow you to take pictures of the finished work and put it up on your website, that's advertising and you're paying them for the advertising. But if you link it dollar for dollar every time to the deductible, well, I think that's too cute by half and you're rebating deductibles. So it's questionable. I'm not saying it's prohibited. I'm not saying it's allowed. We don't know anymore, but you got to be careful if you're going to do it. Train your sales reps. Don't have them, you know, do the nudge, nudge, wink, wink thing. Oh, you know, we can't rebate your deductible, but, oh, by the way, here's what we'll do. We'll give you a sign credit. I mean, that's again, too cute by half, and you're rebating deductibles, and you're likely to get pinched on that, and the state can shut you down if they choose to. The law isn't clear. We have lots of different laws. We have constitutional law. We have statutory law that Congress makes or legislatures make. We've got court-made law, common law. We have common law that we inherited from England before we were a country. We have common law that's made by our courts today. We have regulatory law. We have all kinds of law, and we have all kinds of law that affect you. But we have a lot of law, especially presented by this bulletin and by the laws that were made this year as far as rebating deductibles and as far as the 72-hour notice of cancellation, that really aren't clear. And we need clarification. The bulletin, the 2010-4 bulletin that we're talking about, it's not clear. These orange light, yellow light practices that we went through, where, for example, can you ask the adjuster questions? We know you can answer questions that they ask, but can you ask them questions? As simple as that. It's not clear. The bulletin doesn't say. The law is unclear. You know, the bulletin talks about that you have to be an adjuster, a public adjuster, to do certain practices. And in one paragraph they say, so if you as a contractor are going to do those practices, you need to get licensed as a public adjuster. But then there's the big takeaway in the next paragraph. And the next paragraph references 72B.135 subdivision 4. And that paragraph says, or that statute says, that a public adjuster cannot, quote, have an interest directly or indirectly in a construction firm. What does that mean? I'd suggest directly, I mean, you can't be an owner. You can't be a qualifier. You can't be an officer. Those would, to me, be direct interests in a construction firm. But what's indirect? Could it be a sales rep that's an independent? Could it be a completely independent public adjuster, but you pay their bill? Because customers, consumers, are going to be reluctant to pay the public adjusters. And a lot of public adjusters, the common payment is 10% of the claim amount. And so, which is approximately the amount that sales reps get. So you can't pay sales reps and public adjusters, you don't make any money. So the question is, but if you had to pay that public adjuster, if the job was one, let's say it was a multi-building condominium project or a townhome development or something like that, where it was a lot of money in dispute, and you could get a lot of money if you got this job bought. Maybe it made sense to bring in a public adjuster, but then the association, the board says, we're not paying for a public adjuster, we don't want to pay for this. Can you foot that bill? Or is that prohibited? Would that be an indirect interest in a construction firm? We don't know. And until we have clarification on some of these things, we don't know what's going to be the public adjuster's role as it applies to what you guys do. But that's a big deal. And so the point, the takeaway here from this presentation today is we're going to have the Department of Commerce and we're going to have personnel from the Department of Labor and Industry both here and hopefully they're going to answer some questions and bring some clarity. I'd like some clarity because I want to know what I can advise my clients as to what they do and can't do, and I think you all want to be compliant as well, so hopefully we have some clarity. I'm willing to take questions afterwards on all of this, but a lot of the questions won't be appropriate to address to me because I'm going to say, I don't know, it depends, because until we have some clarity, I can't tell you on some of these questionable practices, for example, whether they're allowed or not allowed. But I can tell you, as I have this morning, as to what you can do and can't do according to the Bulletin. So again, thanks for coming. Please join Minnesota Association of Exterior Specialists, because I keep getting asked by contractors when I do presentations like this. They come up and say, oh, you're a member of MNAES. What are you guys doing? Well, there's no you guys. Okay, you have contractors up here, you have suppliers up here, you have service providers up here. But you know, as far as the service providers, such as myself, it's not our organization, it's yours, it's you guys. What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Are you members? Are you active? Are you contributing financially to your organization? Because your organization is there to defend and protect you. And we started this with a laundry list of law changes that have happened since 2007 that directly affect your industry. And that's fairly new. And your voice is not being heard. And if you don't have strength in numbers, if you aren't out there participating in your own trade association, you kind of get what you deserve. And you get rolled. And what are you doing? Are you members? So please don't come up to me afterwards and ask what we're doing. There is no we. It's your organization. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Jim.